What is up, Big Ten backers? We are back. So hit those likes, hit those shares. Hey, you guys, we are back. Hit us up with the comments. We will get to those comments after every segment. You know, we always do. Sometimes we get interrupted and get to them early, don't we? Don't we, AJ?
We always do.
We got that big ass dump truck of a show for you. We got the bets coming. We're waiting for our main man to hit the ground and get a hold of us. So he's coming straight from Vegas again. He got his bets in for the year. The Big Ten Backers got a special kind of show in store for you today. It takes a special kind of man for us to want that special show. We're getting back into the season. And if the off season gives you blue balls, get ready to bust a nut, baby, because we're talking real football now. All right. By far, our best segment of the year was the betting segment with Seattle Matt. And Matt, he spends the majority of time in Vegas during college football season, so I think we might have rebranded him to Vegas Matt. I don't know. Officially, AJ might have done that in the last show, so we'll see.
He's Vegas Matt for here on out.
Vegas Matt now. He lives in Seattle, spends the majority of his time in Vegas during college football season because that's what he does. He just bets, man. He's a bettor. And speaking of betting, the way I met Vegas Matt now is this man started off by making a $10,000 bet. He saved up for 2 summers working through college on Ohio State in 2002. It was a plus 11 Ohio State. No one thought Ohio State was going to win. That was ridiculous. And he made a ton of money. And now he's a regular at the Bellagio in Vegas and spends the whole college football season there. So, damn. Hopefully he gets in today. We're hoping he gets us those over-unders. We got his spreadsheet. We're ready to go. So, get that man on the show.
Sounds like he just landed. Oh, boy. Are you guys ready for this? Vegas Matt is in the house. We're about to bring him on stage, and boom.
There's Vegas Matt.
Man, making us the money.
Hey, man, why you always got to block out that background, brother? You can't hear us? Come on, man. There it is. Man. There it is. Yeah. Talk to us, Goose.
There we are. There he is. Fresh off the airplane. What's going on, man? How was Vegas this trip?
I'd like to say smooth, but we all know that's a lie. So
I didn't think you were going to make it again, man. You always pull it last second.
It's that it's a very convenient flight time. That's all I'll say. So,
damn.
All right,
getting in.
All right, let's get.
Hey, at our regular time, you wouldn't have made the show.
It was
coming to you late.
We had to push it back. But he's here. All right, y'all ready to get into it? We're going to talk about these Big Ten best bets, over and under style, brought to you by the one and only Vegas Matt.
We did rebrand you. You missed it. You are Vegas Matt now.
That's fine by me. I will change. I would change all my licensing.
Everybody out there in Washington hit the portal anyway, so.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough few years out here in Husky Nation, so. Yeah, we might have to go to Vegas, Matt. So,
hey, man, we got into it a little bit last time. So we want to know what's special about this year. There's some different things going on. The 12-team playoff, all these conference realignments, bigger schedules for everyone. So how does that change the betting odds for the year?
It fundamentally changes them. And I'll say if you're just looking at a really big picture up front, you saw a lot of 10 and a half over-unders. And probably want to start off with by saying when you're looking at over-unders on the season, it is the 12-game regular season only, so they do not consider conference championships as a part of this. It's always just your straight 12 regular season games. So when you're seeing a lot of 10 and a half over-unders, you're basically looking at teams just losing maybe one game. I mean, there were some over-unders last year at 11. You saw Georgia that way. You saw Alabama that way. So now you're seeing a lot in the 10 and a half seems to be kind of the pinnacle you're seeing, but really you're kind of seeing 10, 9 and a half, a lot more. So you're really looking at Vegas saying, we anticipate some of these really good teams, probably the best teams in the country, probably all getting a loss this year. And you're seeing probably the 5th, 6th, 7th seed could actually have 2 losses this year. And that's where you're seeing that 10.5 saying, do we think you're going to get 2 losses this year?
Dude, I think with some of these schedules, you're going to see 3-loss teams bumping up in there.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, there were some of these schedules are ridiculous, man.
They really are.
Now let's get into these schedules, man. You're talking about some of these best overs that you have. And speaking about one of those 9.5s, you got Penn State. Penn State's your number one team that you want to talk about for your best over. So break it down, man. What you got on Penn State? Why do you think they're going to go
Tell
over
me
9.5?
why.
That's a fat 9.5, man.
It is, and I'll kind of go with the philosophy when I'm looking at over-unders on a season. I always like to start out at the extremes, right? You're going to find a ton of teams in the 5.5 to 7.5 range, and if you look at all 134 FBS schools, the majority are going to be in that 5.5 to 7.5. So you can bet those at your own risk. So I like to kind of start out the outliers on both sides of the equation. When you look at
Get those money makers.
Yeah. Really what I like to do is I like to break it down and look at, okay, what are your really tough games on your schedule? And then I want to know, okay, where are your easy wins and your cupcakes? So let's kind of start there with Penn State. If you actually look at their cupcake schedule, they got 2 easy non-conference games. They host Illinois. They host UCLA. We're going to get to UCLA in a little bit. They're at Purdue, and they're at Minnesota. Those are 6 just chalk them up right now wins for Penn State. Now let's go to the other side of the equation and say, okay, let's look at how many tough games do you play this year. I'll be honest.
You count West Virginia in that? Are you counting West Virginia in that?
I am not counting West Virginia in that.
Right.
I am not.
Right.
When I'm looking at – so when I say 2 non-conference, they actually have 3 non-conference games. 2 of them are –
Bowling Green and Kent State.
Yeah, those are the 2 I counted. I did not count West Virginia there. So that's part of the 6th, what I call the soft schedule. The hard schedule.
Can't read, can't write, Kent State.
Hey, I love the Golden Flashes, so you better watch it. But when you look at the hard side, I'm being pretty generous here. They travel to the Coliseum, play USC. They travel to Camp Randall, play Wisconsin. They're at home against Ohio State. That's a legit one. And they're at home against Washington, which is not the same Washington team as last year. So I'm putting 4 in that category, but I think that's a little generous with Wisconsin, Washington. So really, I look at the schedule and I say, okay, you got 6 relatively easy games. You got a couple tough ones, couple so-so ones, and then a couple middle of the road. I really see 10 wins coming out of this Penn State schedule.
No, I agree. Look at this, man. Like they got some easy games, like you said, you talked about. They're going to start off 5-0. I think they take West Virginia. I think they only need to win one of those 3 games, and they're easily over. And you're talking, for me, SC, Wisconsin, and Ohio State, man. They got Ohio State at home. At SC could cause some problems. At Wisconsin could cause some problems. But they only have to win one of those 3 games to say over 9.5. I think that's easy. That is a fat-ass stretch because they do play those 3 games in a row. And your ass ain't seen stretches like that since you graduated high school and started working at Pizza Hut.
That's where you made all that money?
It was more GameStop, but yeah, close enough, you know. But
and you got some stock in GameStop too. Sold that.
No, I was just an employee there. That's really where I came from.
I'm with Matt though. I'm taking the over here on Penn State.
Hey man, you know the losses that they have. You just talked about it. I think they lose at USC, Ohio State. I think they pull off the Wisconsin and Washington. So I'm over. I'm with you.
Yeah. Hey.
I'm putting my money on the Lions.
Penn State at 10-2 is like the sun. Penn State at 10-2 is like the sun rising in the east. So
happens every time.
You can set your.
But this is different, man. This is different. There's a loaded schedule now, man. This is so different. It's no longer the cupcakes of the West.
This is where the debate's going to come in this year because you're right. There are some really powerful schedules, but there are some that slip through the cracks. And Penn State's one of them. You don't have Michigan this year. You don't have Maryland this year. You don't have
Oregon.
Yeah, I mean Penn State kind of got lucky this round.
They don't
have Iowa either.
We'll talk about the luckiest, man. We'll talk about the luckiest. We got a little comment from Troy. Really? More big BS? Well, we are the BigTen Backers, so yeah, Troy. That's what we're doing.
Yep.
Oh, Troy.
got a
Is Troy just
UW
upset
bus
that
duck.
Washington State wasn't included?
What's up,
Oh,
B
we
Fine?
can
Go
talk
Ducks. We got
Cougar.
another duck in the house. Jamie usually is on the show. He's our
Jamie
local
the
duck,
duck.
if you will. He's on the show quite a bit. He'll be on again.
He's our
We'll
little
talk about
duckling.
football here soon. Let's talk about the next team. You talked about Maryland, right? And them avoiding Penn State. You got Maryland also on one of your best overs. They're at 7.5. Where do you see them getting over 7.5?
Again, you start out with the cupcake portion of their schedule, 2 easy non-conference games. Then they're at Indiana, Northwestern, Michigan State, at Minnesota.
Look at that schedule.
I mean, I honestly look at those 6 games right there, and I say those should be your 6 wins right off the bat. You're starting out 6 wins right there. Now we go to the flip side, and we're saying, okay, tell me your hard schedule. You got USC at home, which is a trend we're going to talk about here a little bit later. You do travel to Autzen to play Oregon. I think they'll lose that one. And you travel to Happy Valley to play Penn State. So I think you're probably going to beat USC maybe, but worst case scenario with the 9 games I just listed, they're 6-3. So you're telling me with the other middle of the road Big Ten teams, I got to pull out 2 of the next 3. I see that as being very probable. Very favorable schedule overall, so that's why I like them at that over.
Speaking of that very favorable schedule, we got to have it up on the screen, brother.
Oh, you're right. We got to move these schedules around, man. My bad.
I'm tired of staring at Penn State.
There we go. There's that Maryland schedule. But I don't know, Matt. Man, I don't know. This one's tight like a tiger, man. Like, I see 3 wins automatic. I got the Indiana, UConn, Villanova wins for sure. But, man, home games against Michigan State, Rutgers, Northwestern, those can be a toss-up depending on how Maryland plays. And then you got UVA and Minnesota on the road. I don't think those are giving me wins either. And then you got the guaranteed losses with Penn State, Oregon, SC, and Iowa. I don't think this is a safe bet, man. I don't think this is a guaranteed over.
Oh, you're going against them on that? 7.5. So where do they lose? You think they lose to Oregon, I'm assuming.
I think they lose that. Right? SC, Iowa, Penn State, Oregon for sure. I think Rutgers could catch them. I think Michigan State could catch them. I think UVA has a chance to catch them. I don't know. I don't think Minnesota will, but I just don't think it's a guarantee. I don't know if it's a guaranteed over for me.
What you gave them a loss to? Did you say Iowa?
Guarantee on anything. I want to be that clear. This is gambling. This is fun. You never say guarantees until the final whistle goes.
Okay, to me, it's not the best over, if you will.
Highest
better overs within the Big Ten schedule this year, and we'll talk about those a bit later. But for me, I got another team that I think is a better over than Maryland.
And who is that?
Man,
we're going to talk about it later.
We'll get to it. Save the best for last.
All right.
Hey, man, I think this is right on. The 7-5 is probably about where they're going to be.
I agree.
So, man, I'm going under too. I'm going against you, brother. Get back to Vegas and make that bet again.
This to me belongs in the don't touch, man. I don't want to touch this one. I don't know what Maryland's
I wouldn't touch it.
What they're going to do, and Steve wants to
put that in your lucky parlays, man. All the ones you don't touch. Just get a couple of don't touch parlays going.
I don't parlay, man. Real bettors don't parlay.
So. I know, but you got to do them every now and then, right?
Nope, never touch them.
Just to feel lucky.
All right, we got another Vegas Matt best over. My favorite one of his choices. Rutgers over and under is at 6.5, man. And you want to talk about somebody who got a schedule that is crazy?
There it is.
All these neat teams in the Big Ten, man. Rutgers. Look at that schedule, man. Now
who the hell is Howard Bison?
They avoid a lot. Break this one down for me, Matt.
Yeah, and this is where we're going to get into this when we talk about some of the West Coast teams, but East Coast, West Coast travel was definitely something I did incorporate in this. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But I look at 2 easy non-conference games. You got UCLA coming into your house, one of the furthest travel games. We're going to talk about what I think of UCLA, my apologies, but I think that travel is going to play a factor here. Really curious to see how that plays out. You got Minnesota, you got Illinois, and you're at Michigan State. Again, I like Jonathan Smith in Michigan State. I think it's up and coming. He's got a lot of work to do in year one. So I really see that as a weaker Big Ten team. again, those are your 6 wins that I think Rutgers has in the bag. This over-under is at 6.5. Now you look at what we deem to be your hard games, and you can take that with a grain of salt. You're really not
give me those
touching
hard
the
ones.
4 best teams in the Big Ten. You got at Virginia Tech, and I'll tell you right now, Virginia Tech has the most returning starters percentage-wise in all of college football. So intrigued by that team a little bit. But then they got Washington again coming to town, a really long flight, Seattle to New Jersey. You're home against Wisconsin, and you're on the road against USC. And I am very bearish on USC, to be honest with you. I don't think they're going to be that great this year. So that's your 4. You missed Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, and Penn State. To me, this is one of my favorite overs.
Chalk one up. They're going to be chopping.
Absolutely my favorite over. When you get a chance to not play Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan in the new Big Ten, like,
whoa, that's crazy.
What did he do? What did Greg Schiano do to get this kind of schedule, man? He better make the most of it. This is an awesome schedule for Rutgers fans. They should be absolutely happy with what happened. There's teams out here who play everybody, and Rutgers avoided everyone somehow, some way. They do have hard games against Nebraska, SC, and Vautech. Vautech, like you said, most senior team coming back, but they still weren't that good of a team. There was a reason they were bad last year. So just because they came back doesn't mean they're going to be good again this year. Nebraska, are they still going to have turnover issues? And then SC, man, they don't have no defense. So I think every game on their schedule is absolutely winnable. I don't think they're going to win them all, but they're absolutely winnable, man. They got Whiskey, Maryland, Washington. They're all winnable. Like their entire schedule.
UCLA.
Yeah. No, that's a guaranteed win almost.
I'm trying to think of who is a definite loss. You're right. The closest one maybe Wisconsin, and they can beat Wisconsin. They gave them a game last year.
I think Vautech's going to be slightly better than people think. I'm not saying that's a loss, but I think that's a little bit more challenging.
And USC.
I'm bullish on Maryland. Yeah, I'm bearish on USC. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what we're going to see out of them.
I think, they got that new defensive coordinator. I think that's going to change the tone there.
Yeah, we'll see that quarterback.
That's what they needed. They needed a defense, all right?
Yeah, but you're starting a guy who's played one game. I mean, we're going to get into that with a team I want to stay away from. But
he's Miller time, man.
Miller time did look good. He's out there mossing everybody.
There's nothing like the champagne of beers, man. Give it to him for that.
Again, you have the number 1 overall pick in the draft as your quarterback last year, and you lost 5 games. So
yeah, well, it's the system, brother.
What up, Andrew? Andrew, he's part of the College Football Dogs Network, just like we are. He runs the College Football Villains podcast, man. It's a really relaxed show. They kick back, man. They you want to get rough and rowdy? That's a rough and rowdy show. Get on there. They do all kinds of shit talking. It's a good time. Check them out.
Come on here and talk shit, Andrew. Let's go, man. We need some shit talking.
Bring your best. All right, so we did the overs, man. Those are Matt's best overs.
Did you give me a chance to give my opinion on this? Come on, asshole.
No one needs to hear your opinion.
Hey, everyone wants to hear the winner's opinion. What was I, 63%? I don't even remember anymore. It was so long ago. It was just, it was so good. I made that money. I held you all. So count on me again this year. Let me give you, I go over 2. That's an easy one.
Yeah, easy over. Absolutely. All right, let's get into these unders. Matt's best unders, man. Let's start off with Michigan. Michigan, hell of a fucking schedule. Woo, boy, they got a schedule. Fat 9.5 on the over and under. Matt, I think you got this one right, and this one might make some Wolverines upset, but it might be the truth.
Yeah,
that schedule.
No bias, no emotion when it comes to gambling. I take off my Ohio State hat. I look at everything as unbiased as humanly possible, and you tip your cap. They had a wonderful year last year, and I think they're going to be returning some good players. So it's not
their schedule just had a sex change. It's completely different than last year.
You got all that. So this is not really so much a talent or Coach Moore or anything along that. It is a brutal schedule. When you start off with, let's start out with some of your tougher opponents for Michigan. You got to face Fresno State week 1. Again, not an easy game. I think they'll win it, but it's still not an easy game. Then you got Texas coming to town. You got USC coming to town. You are traveling out to Seattle and Washington. And I can tell you all, even when Washington the last few years had some down years, they win pretty frequently in Seattle. It's a tough place to travel to. It's a tough stadium to play in. So even with a Husky down year, I think that's a really tough game. Then you got Oregon at home, and you travel to the Shoe. So there are 6 games that I think are going to be challenging there. I'm not saying they're going to lose all 6, but for this bet and this purpose at 9.5, they lose 3 of those 6, they're under. That's it. So
hey, let's change that schedule, brother.
I mean, I bet they want.
Give us Michigan.
I bet they want
Rutgers.
That's old trust me.
Oh man, change it back. Never mind. I lied.
Yeah. And even, and I'm not saying Arkansas State's going to win, but I know they're returning a lot of players as well too. So, Michigan's going to win that game, but not as easy as it looked a couple years ago when they were a 2-10 program. And you got about 6 cupcakes again on the schedule, 2-9. You got one non-conference at Arkansas State that I mentioned. You got Minnesota at Illinois, at Indiana, home against Northwestern. So I apologize. You got 5 ones there. But even with those 5, you just put them in the bag, say they win. You've got to find 5 more games after that to hit this over. And I just see with losing a lot of that offense, I see with the coaching change, they're going to be good. Mm-hmm. I see this as a 9-3 football team, and that hits under.
Damn. That's rough. That's hard. Because I see this team, if they lose 3 games, I think they're one of those teams that gets into the playoffs with 3 losses.
If it's Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State are your 3 losses and you look really good in all 12 games, yeah, I bet they're a 10 seed, be honest with you.
Dude, even if they beat one of those and lose to like a USC, still can get in.
Oh, yeah. If they beat one of those 3 I mentioned and they lose to UW or USC, I still think they're a top 11 team. Yeah.
All I'll say is under all day, man. They paid for that national championship. And when I mean they paid for it, it wasn't Connor Stallions. I'm talking about their coach left, all their seniors left, their entire coaching staff left. And then the big comes in and sticks it big with that schedule. And then they do them no favors either by grabbing Texas and Fresno State too. Like that's not going to be a give me win, man. This is that's
an award
all day.
Ward Emmanuel, man.
To the bank. But man, that schedule, Texas, USC, Ohio State, Oregon, man. Like, who wants that? Nobody wants that, man.
I want it, man. I want to watch these games, man. I'm so pumped.
About, like, if you're a coach and your
fans want that.
Depends on you winning, you don't want that, man.
Dude, it's a new world with scheduling. You got to take that into effect, man. There's got to be like a ranking of your schedule strength to go into the rankings this year for the top 12. I mean, with as many games as they're having, if you look at what Alabama does, man, some of these teams, they're playing some just big-time matchups. Usually would be out-of-conference games. All
agree.
Of these. You look at Oregon, you look at Texas playing them, you look at playing USC. Those are all huge magnet games. Everyone's going to gravitate to those.
Oh, we're gonna have to be there. BigTen Backers, we already got one question. They're asking if we're going to be on a road trip for Virginia Tech Rutgers to hear Metallica. When they start playing, man, give me that lunch pail. I would love to be there. That's one of my dream stadiums to go see. But man, there's so many good choices this year. Like, I feel like we have to be at Texas, Michigan. We have to be at USC, Michigan. It's going to be a hard, fun trip for the BigTen Backers this year when we're making our rounds.
Dude, we're going to have to go back to that schedule to answer that. What week is that? I don't even know. Like week 3?
We got to plan our season out, man. And then, of course, we try not to plan it out too much just in case, there's something that happens and teams don't do as good as they should have, or another team like Rutgers shocks and surprises.
And we got to see where the college football dogs take us with their press credentials.
Yeah. College football dogs, man, they're going to get us press credentials. We're going to be at stadiums for the college football dogs for their Saturday show, man. I can't wait.
In stadiums, around stadiums, on stadiums, through them.
Yeah, exactly. All of it. All of the above.
Maybe under.
Yeah, it's
going to take some work, but
so that would work.
All right, let's go.
Let's go. All right. So,
all right. Cal,
you got
what do you got?
Cal
Hold on. I didn't give my opinion again. You were just skipping me like a motherfucker. I didn't say.
You've been
I'm going to go over.
Time. I thought that was.
I'm going to take over. I'm going to give Michigan credit. They pulled it off last year. I think they're going to pull it off again this year. They still have the meat and bones from what they had last year. They're going to get it done. 2 years from now, that's when they're going to feel the effects of Harbaugh and everyone leaving.
I don't know. That defense is definitely good enough to keep them in every game, for sure.
Hell yeah.
But I don't know. 9.5 is fat, man. That's fat.
Orgy in the end zone, man.
Or maybe he's not throwing it. He might be running it to the end zone.
It don't matter as long as he's there. Damn it!
All
I
right,
can't
Southern
believe I
Cal,
said that.
man.
I hate
Southern
Michigan.
Cal. 7.5. That seems like it should be easy with that name, but it ain't gonna be easy. So Matt, tell me why you think it's not.
Switch that schedule.
One of the things that I really want to see this year, and it's going to take a couple years for this to flush itself out, but I started tracking, okay, with these original 14 Big Ten teams, how often do you go west? And if you look at that, every single one of the original 14 only go out west once. The same is not true for the new 4 teams going east. Now, I didn't take Central Time Zone into account. I know y'all want to, but I'm just talking east as in the new footprint of what they're used to. And I say all that because when you actually look at USC's schedule, they go out east 4 times, which they have not done in a very long time. I'm really interested to see traveling out Central Time Zone, Eastern Time Zone, how that plays in. So that's one variable to consider. Second variable, again, if you start out with the soft part of their schedule, you got one soft non-conference game, Utah State, and then you really have at Minnesota.
Soft like your nightlife.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then you're at Minnesota and you're at UCLA. That's it. I mean, when I look and I say, okay, what do I think is just truly flat out winnable game, no debate, no question about it, I look at USC's schedule and I see 3. And then you start flipping and saying, okay, let's start looking at some of your tough teams. You got LSU. It is a neutral site game, but you still got LSU. You're at Michigan, home against Wisconsin, home against Penn State. You're traveling up to Seattle to play Washington, and you got Notre Dame. I mean, that's brutal. And in fact, if you look at those 6 games, which I can make an argument, they could lose those 6 games. Even if they win one of those and lose the other 5, you're sitting at a 7-5 record. So to me, this 7.5 over-under makes no sense. You're also seeing them return on both sides of the ball, about 50% total of the players. And honestly, you got a quarterback who's played 1 game in his collegiate career. And I don't care how great you look in a bowl game. That is really tough for a young kid having 1 game of experience, stepping in to this kind of schedule and saying, go win me 8 football games. I don't see it. I don't buy it. I think another 7-5 year, if you're lucky at USC, bang the under.
Go ahead, Steve. I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
Give me that Miller time, that champagne of beers. I got them only losing 4 games. Give me the over. The only games that for sure losses, all right? Michigan. I'll get LSU beats them at the neutral site. And Notre Dame, those are 3. And then Penn State, I think they could go either way. I think they take down Washington.
I think for sure they'll take down Washington. I think this is a close one. I think they're definitely at 7 wins. It's just, can they get that other win to get them over 7?
That defense, man, that coordinator.
So they're going to be at 7 wins, in my opinion. Now, they have to win against Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, LSU, and Nebraska to get to that 8th win. And I think that's going to be tough, man. You could probably pull that Nebraska win, but if you pull that Nebraska win, did you get upset by Wisconsin? Did you get upset by Maryland? I think that 8th win is going to be really hard. I think Vegas has got this one dialed in really, really well. I think it is going to be tough for them to get the over, but I do think it's possible. But man, close one. Really tight. Hard to predict this one.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's what stay away one probably, but if I'm going to put my money down, I'm going the over.
Oh, you missed it, Jack Hugh, man. We didn't count out Rutgers. We were talking about how they're the safest bet for the over this year, man. We were already sure on that.
Man, they got that schedule. You got to rewind the tape after the show's over. Listen to that again, because we talked up Rutgers big time.
We did. We're selling.
But they're also lucky as fuck, man. That schedule.
Nice.
They don't play anyone.
Ryan,
at least in the Big Ten.
Ryan Carter says Michigan, Penn State football, Washington, LSU are guaranteed losses for SC. And then he says, I'll say right now, odds-on favorite to win the Big Ten is Ohio State and then Oregon and then Penn State. I think that is the top 3 teams going into this year. Penn State returns a lot of talent. And then Oregon, Ohio State, you've seen everything they did in the offseason.
Well, there's Penn State at 3rd again.
It's funny. They can't get out of it. Can't get out of 3rd place.
No matter what happens. And they got a better team, and there's just more people to play against.
All right, we got one more. Not guaranteed. Can't say guaranteed. Sorry, Matt.
Guaranteed.
Most likely to be under.
You can say it. I won't say
it. Opinion. We got the other team from LA, UCLA. Their over and under is at 5.5. Tell me why they won't make 5.5. And there's lots of reasons.
I don't think they're going to get close to 5.5. And again,
with that schedule.
Looking at, we're going to start with the hard. Actually, we'll start with, again, going with the traveling eastbound. You got 4 games, Eastern Central time zones. Again, I think that's going to be a really big factor for these teams. Very curious to see how that plays out. Now we're going to jump.
That's going to happen every year. I mean, there's only 4 teams in the West. They're going to have to travel.
Yeah, but I think that's a burden on them. You look at all the original 14, they only travel out west once. Every single one of them have one. With correction, I do apologize. Purdue somehow missed the West Coast boat. They don't travel out west at all. The other 13 do. But I think when you say, okay, Ohio State, you have 1 game this year out west. USC, you have 4 games out east. You're right. They're going to have to do it, but that's a factor. Now you start looking at UCLA, and you look at the tough games on their schedule. They are at LSU, home against Oregon, at Penn State, at Rutgers, at Washington. You got USC at home, and you finish the year again with Fresno State. I am bullish on Fresno State. I'm sure you all picked up on that. That's a really tough schedule. That's a really tough schedule with those 7 teams. I think you really only see 3 kind of layups. You do travel to Hawaii, which may sound a little silly, but it's not fun to play Hawaii at Hawaii. You got Indiana and Minnesota. So I really see 3 for sure. But to be honest with you, I don't see how you're finding another 3 after that on this schedule.
I agree.
The under for me.
3 for sure. Minnesota could get them, man. I think there's only 2 for sure. I think Vegas should have put this at 2.5 or 3.5. There's no way that they get the 4.5. I think this is the safest bet we've talked about.
Drop
today.
it now.
I even love Rutgers, but I think UCLA is even safer than them going over, which is crazy. But there's no way. Absolutely no way.
Dude, you got to look at your hard games for them, man. It's just funny saying it. At Rutgers, Fresno State. But it's true, man. UCLA just dropped the boat, man.
I mean, they lost their players. They lost their defensive coordinator. They lost their head coach. They have a really young head coach. Doesn't even have.
He was a running back coach last year.
Experience.
Holy shit, that's risky, man.
That's why that's probably my favorite play of all of them is that under.
Yeah, that one is.
Damn, I feel sorry for those Bruins, man, because they should be able to recruit. They should be able to win in football, man. They're in LA, man. Do you just bring recruits out and be like, hey, enjoy the sunshine? But they can't.
Yeah, then their big brother says, come on over here and play at the Coliseum. That's what happens.
And then you have a chance to go out and get maybe a well-named coach, spend some money on a guy. And no offense to the coach that they picked up, but, man, he has no coordinating experience. He came straight from the running back room. Now, he ran a damn good room and put running backs in the NFL, but that's a big jump, man, from running a running back room to being the head coach. That's massive.
Yeah, I mean, it's like putting Brian Hartline at Ohio State at head coach, you know. They didn't do that. They even dropped him from coordinator, kind of.
This screams bridge coach to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
They see this transition to the Big Ten. They see a bridge coach. They're going to get their NIL situation figured out. I mean, Chip Kelly said it was a
Save
disaster.
some money.
I see them saving some money, get your NIL right, have a couple 4 and 8 years, take your lumps, get your act together. Okay, we're going to go figure out.
Could you imagine saying that at a big time program? Just get your 4 and 8 years, and then we'll get things together.
I mean, 2 years ago, go Google it for your fans. When UCLA opened up against South Alabama beat them. You see the view of the Rose Bowl on the home opener. You couldn't put all those people into my living room right now that were in that stadium. I mean, that wasn't last year. That was 2022, and South Alabama was, decent. They beat them.
But Fresno State's going to do it again.
I think UCLA has a lot of problems, and I see them taking a few years to sort it out.
No, they're not taking football serious. And we got a comment that kind of touched on it. Jack Hugh here. He's like, Bruins really need to put a focus on football.
Yeah.
They do. They have it in I don't know how many years. It seemed like Chip was kind of getting them the right direction. They're like, hey, let's fire this guy. I don't understand why. Maybe they're just trying to get things done cheaper. They don't want an expensive coach. They're not putting money into the football program. Their NIL program is in shambles. Like they are a complete mess everywhere. But let's hit these comments and then we'll take a little.
Their fans were legit when I was out there in LA though for the Battle of LA. It was awesome. I mean, it was a good experience seeing them tailgate, having a good ass time. But damn, man, they need to put some money in that program.
Good fans don't mean a whole lot when it comes to wins on the field. Indiana was fun. We went to Indiana for Ohio State game, and those Indiana the fans were in there.
Indiana was a blast.
Obscenities at Ohio State. It was a good time. They were having a blast. But how good did
Fuck
Indiana
Ohio?
Exactly. They were having a good time. Didn't mean anything though.
They didn't know anyone on their team though.
No. Let's hit these comments, man. Jack Hughes hitting us up. Lots of lucky teams this year. Watch out for Missouri, Ole Miss, and Syracuse. Those are just a few on the top of his brain. Yeah, all those teams right there are looking to have a massive year. It's crazy to say Syracuse, but they might be the Louisville of the ACC this year. Go on a run. You have to look at yourself. How big of a lightning rod the new coach will be. I think he wins them 1 or 2 games. They shouldn't. I can't remember who he was talking about, though.
Talking about big lightning rods. I think you're on the wrong show.
And then they talked about Chip Kelly being gone. Yeah, we mentioned that, man. Big loss for them. Not only that, they were kind of like Michigan falling apart, but they didn't have everything Michigan had to begin with when they fell apart. And then he says, at this point, save your NIL for 5 years and buy you a championship twice a decade. I don't even think the Bruins can do that, but that might be a good plan.
Twice a decade.
Time to pay some bills, man. Let's pay some bills.
Let's hit it up.
Let's get a little spicy. Let's get some Danos.
Yum, yum, get your some. Yum, yum, get your some. Yum, yum, get your some. Yum, yum, get your some.
Dano seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa, whoa.
Joe, we
Hey.
all know you're the best.
What?
You can always do better.
What you got?
Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
Let's get spicy, man. We're going to talk about the spicy because we got the 2 best odds in the Big Ten. We're going to talk about those 2 teams next and their schedule. This is Matt. Stay away. Do not touch these teams. This is not safe. Bettors beware. And let's start with the Ohio State University, your guys' favorite team, and one of y'all's alma mater.
Yes, sir. And this is there may be a little biasy on my end, not with the Ohio State comment, but when I look at over-unders across all the major sports, I do typically stay away from the ones at the extreme end. I just think there's such a little margin of error when you're talking about some of the best teams in professional sports or collegiate sports. So I am a little biased on that front, but I think there's some data here that kind of supports that when you're looking at Ohio State. First off, I want to say when I added up all the soft number of games on anybody's schedule in the Big Ten, I had Ohio State at 7. So you see that right off the bat where I think they have 7 relatively soft games: Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, Michigan State. I mean, you all can see the schedule. But I think that's pretty straightforward where I do see, okay, right off the bat, I see 7 wins right there with some of the softer teams. Now you kind of look at some of their tougher games. They're a home against Iowa, not a fun team to play. At Oregon, could be a very legitimate loss there. At Penn State, I don't know if that's going to be a big noon kickoff or a whiteout at night. Who knows? And then, of course, Michigan. And I look and I say to myself, okay, I think traveling out to Eugene, they lose that game. Everyone kind of says, hey, that's not super surprising. Two good football teams, 2 best in the Big Ten. We'll see y'all in the Big Ten championship. But that would put you at 1 loss. And then you still got to play Penn State.
Yeah.
And you got to play Michigan. And let's be honest, Ryan Day, no matter how great the talent is on his team, is going to be super tight for that last game of the year.
Don't you go there.
Has to win.
Don't you put that on me.
Put that on me, Ricky Bobby. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
Ohio State's loaded. Loaded. They're going to come back. They're going to lose 1 game this year. If they are not in contention in the top 4 to end the season, it's going to be a shit show in Columbus because they got everything. I mean, they are a stacked team. They need a offensive tackle, and they need one of the quarterbacks to just show up. They got everything else. Everything else is all over the field. 5 stars, the best players you could think of, everywhere. 2 of the best running backs in the game.
You're making my argument for me. Is there is much pressure on Ryan Day, and there's so much pressure on him. Again,
but he's going to do it. I mean, it's not about the X's and the O's. It's the Jimmies and the Joes, brother.
He has more talent than Michigan. I would probably say 2 out of the 3 years in the last 3, and he's gotten so tight in those games, and Michigan's dominated. You know, I want to see when you have elite talent, how do you perform on the field? And he has to go 11-1. He has to beat Michigan. He's got to go to a national championship game. I don't know if he has to win it, but he's got to get there. And he's got to beat Michigan.
He's got to go.
How does he handle that pressure? I don't know. And I look at this schedule and I say there could be 2 losses on this schedule. They could still make the playoffs, still make a great run. But when I'm looking at pure over-under and I'm looking at this schedule and I'm looking at Ryan Day's performance under pressure, and I say stay the hell away from this over-under.
I'm with Matt on this one, man. Like, if you lose one game, the over and under is in extreme jeopardy, right? And they don't have a good out-of-conference schedule this year. But you're talking about the 2 toughest road games in the Big, at Oregon, at Penn State, and they're within 3 weeks. And you throw Nebraska in the middle of that too, and Nebraska's not going to be any kind of a pushover. That 3-game stretch right there, and I'll talk about
in Iowa before it.
Obviously, you got in Iowa before. Look at that stretch right there, man. Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska, Penn State. That's a disastrous row, man. Like, you could look ahead, and when you're playing Iowa and look too far ahead and think about Oregon, you could maybe go out to Oregon and put a butt whooping on them, and then just thinking all high and mighty about yourself, and Nebraska rolls into town. That stretch of games right there is just danger. I don't think they can get 10.5 because of that stretch right there. But man, oh man, they could do it. But I think Matt's right. The safer here is to stay away because they're good enough to do it, but they're also a hard enough stretch right there that it might not happen, especially on the road at Oregon, at Penn State, and then you got Iowa and Nebraska in between. Ooh, no thanks. Save your money. Save your money.
If you have to put money on this, where do you go? If you had to, gun to the head, put money on it now.
Gun to the head, I'll take the under.
Matt?
No.
Come on, Vegas.
I'm too biased. I'm too biased on my team. I expect them to win every single game, and I'm pissed when they don't. So I'm abstaining on this one.
Yeah.
You have to pick. Gun to your head, man.
They didn't
Hey, you can't back out of this.
Not ready. Someone's going to
I would say have to. I would say under. Until Ryan Day can prove he can win in the clutch. I see that Oregon being an L, and I see that last game of the year being an L.
I could see them losing to Oregon at Oregon, but man, I would go over by the skin of your hair.
So you're telling me Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska, Penn State, and the game against Michigan at the end that they don't lose any more than 2 games, guaranteed.
How many times? How many years have they had Iowa, Penn State? I mean, those 3 stretches, they're nothing
because they're in a row and then have Michigan at the end. Come on now, this is a new big schedule. You can't
say
this happens every year.
They used to always have Michigan State, Penn State, and Michigan at the end of the year too. But they got through it.
Yeah, but this is 4 and a Michigan at the end.
Yeah, I mean, there's 1 extra, but they're loaded, man. There's too much talent.
Oregon, man, come on now, come on.
It's big, and it's at Oregon. I get it. And I think that's the one place that they could lose. They'll win the rest of the games.
You got to realize, Beef, talent's never been a problem at Ohio State. It's execution.
Yeah, but this is extreme talent. This makes all the other talented teams look minuscule. This is 2019 type talent. Like, they
Andrew
can't lose.
Says Ohio State will probably win the Big. I think they will. I think Steve's right. They might lose at Oregon and maybe replay them in the Big Ten championship game and win it. But I think that at Oregon is going to cause some problems. And
if I had to bet, I'd go over.
No, why isn't Kenny here talking about the Big? He can't handle anything big. Trust me.
Kenny's not allowed to talk big.
SEO. Sko Ducks. Sko Ducks. Let's go Ducks.
Let's go Ducks.
I was like,
That's
huh?
a great segue.
Ducks are going to be good, man. And that's
the
a,
next
hey,
thing we're gonna
that's
be
a good
talking
lead-in.
about. Thanks, man.
That's
Thanks,
a
Brett.
good lead-in.
Man. All right, here we are.
Boom.
Man. The Ducks. They also have that 10.5, just like Ohio State. This is another one that Matt says stay away. Matt, tell me why we should stay away.
Yeah, again, you got Oregon 10.5 as well. You're seeing Ohio State, Oregon at 10.5, leading the Big Ten there. First thing you look at is that the hard part of that schedule. You got Ohio State, you're at Michigan, you're at Wisconsin. You do got Washington at home. That's probably not as hard as I put it in there, but I also did throw in Boise State and Oregon State. And you kind of look at Oregon State on the surface and you say, okay, why would you throw Oregon State in there? I can tell you, living out here, Oregon State and Washington State are really pissed off schools right now. They felt like the conference got taken away from them. I think Washington State's going to give the Huskies a tough road the next few years. I think Oregon State's going to give Oregon a tough game. I'm not saying they're going to beat the Ducks, but I think that's going to be their Super Bowl because they really have nothing else to play for, those two schools. So I'd keep a sharp eye on those when we're getting into the weeks where they're betting, but I think that is a tougher game for them.
They're going to treat Oregon State like Liberty.
Emotion is real in college football. If this was the NFL,
absolutely.
Oregon wins by 21 and go home. Emotion plays big in college football, and I can tell you right now, living out here, they are not happy. They are not happy at all. So
of course they're not happy. They got left out of the show, man.
I'm just saying, when you look at Oregon State and you say, what the hell are they playing for? Because they have no conference championship whatsoever. They got one game on their schedule they care about, and it's this one.
And I'm just saying, there's a reason they got left out. They ain't losing to no Beavers.
Just for clarification purposes, was this your opinion, or you still need to share your opinion?
My opinion?
Oh, me? No, that's not my. I didn't go over under. I was just talking about the rivalry, man. Come on.
Anyway,
Go ahead.
I do need to share my opinion. I want to be heard. I'm like a woman. Listen to me. Take my opinion. Care about me. Tell me good things.
I got it. I'm going to hug it and squeeze it and pet it, and then I want to get rid of it.
Hey, man, that's not how this is supposed to go.
Well, if you
not
start
how this is
looking
supposed to go.
they got some softer.
It started
they
off
got
good.
some opponents. They got about 5 soft opponents. And again, this is a team travels East and Central 3 times too. Another thing to take a part of. I think Oregon is an elite football team this year. I really see them playing a part in the Big Ten championship game. They're probably one of the two. Ohio State, Oregon national or Big Ten championship seems highly likely. And again, this is not an indictment on Ohio State or Oregon. These teams could win 11 games. They could win 12 games. But we're looking at it right now with these much more complicated schedules. Everybody knowing in the back of their head, hey, 1 loss, hey, 2 losses. It doesn't eliminate me anymore like it used to. I'm really curious to see how these teams handle these really difficult schedules and knowing, hey, 1 loss doesn't exclude me from the playoffs. So I say stay away from your 10.5s. Across the board.
Yeah, stay away. But you have to pick because this is a betting show. So what's your pick? Gun to your head. Come on, bet my money.
Over.
Damn, you took. All right.
Okay. All right, what you got, Steve? What you got?
I'll respect your opinion. This is tough. Let me just think about that. If they lost to Ohio State and Michigan, just those 2 games, do they still get into the playoffs?
Yes,
absolutely.
They might get into the Big
Ten
championship.
Who are their wins? I mean, they're strong wins then. Washington,
Wisconsin.
I'll give a sneaky pick. We'll cut to it a little bit later. I think Boise State's going to make the playoff as the best group of 5 team. I really do. So I actually see that Boise State game being a pretty darn good game.
That's going to be a big game then.
All right, so what you got, Steve?
Does Boise State got a lot coming back? All right. Oh,
yes,
man.
Focus.
I guess this is just like Ohio State. I mean, they've been recruiting well. They're stacked at quarterback. They're stacked everywhere. They got wide receivers out the yin-yang. They got a great young coach. I would probably go under, just barely. Man, I don't like that pick, but I'll go under.
All right.
I don't like it, but I'm taking it.
I think this would be a safer bet for the over than Ohio State, only because they don't play at Ohio State and at Penn State. They got they got Michigan, Oregon State, and Wisconsin as their tough road games. That's a lot easier than, playing at Oregon or playing at Penn State. So I think they're a safer bet at the over. I'm with Matt. I think it's a little bit more safe bet to stay away. But if I had to choose, I would take the over too. You're telling me, even if they lose to Ohio State, they win the rest of their games. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
think so.
at Michigan's not going to be. It's not going to be.
It's not going to be easy. I feel like Michigan's going to fall way off, and I think Oregon is the most complete team outside of Ohio State, and you could even say Ohio State in that matter. I think everybody talks about all these West Coast teams don't know how to play big football. Oregon has been building in the trenches on both the offensive line and the defensive line. If there's one team that switched over that's ready to make this transition, it is Oregon, and they're better than 99% of the teams in the Big Ten, man, and they could be better than Ohio State, and we're going to find that out this year, and we might actually get 2 cracks at that game to see who's better. So I would take the over if I had to, but man, this is going to be fun. Like, Oregon's been building for this. They've been ready, man. I think they knew a long time ago that they were coming to the big, and they've been building in the trenches. Like, this is not your Oregon of the past where they're a flashy, fast wide receivers, big running back, Chip Kelly type. This team is defense, man, and I think they're the best in the big coming into this year. I think Ohio State's right there with them, and I think these two, it's going to be Godzilla versus King Kong, man. But I think Oregon's schedule is a little bit more favorable within the big than Ohio State.
It is. You're right. But did you see what that Michigan defense did to a Pac-12 team? The Phoenix in Washington, man. They had them twice. They had Oregon twice, and that defense was just way too much.
Let's not act like that game was just a beatdown, man. That was a 7-point game mostly through the third quarter. It wasn't some beatdown.
But that defense dominated.
At the end, but that game was actual really close game.
It was. But Michigan dominated, even though it was close.
Just saying. Just going to put that out there because a lot of people just think Michigan just railroaded them the entire day, but it wasn't that way. Like, Washington
looked pretty bad.
Washington's defense held them in check. Outside the first quarter and the fourth quarter, like, Washington's defense was right there with them.
Yeah, Washington's defense did good, but I mean, Michigan isn't like an offensive powerhouse team,
No,
they're a game
but if you look at the additions Oregon had and already had before they put on the additions, they are built on offense and defense. It's a complete different team than last year.
Man, I can't wait to chop this back up later on.
We'll pick it up, man. We'll pick it up. But anyways, let's hit some comments, man, and because we got a lot of them. It says Oregon State will be a fine addition to the Sun Belt. Or maybe the new ACC after everybody leaves there. They can join Stanford.
Well, that's comment of the day. He just broke the internet.
Let's see. Alex says Ohio State's going 12-0. Lock it in.
Hope you're right,
And he
Alex.
said,
That's my boy, Alex.
This is the same Ohio State that got beat by a white running back for Mizzou. It's not the same Ohio State, but it's close. Depends on how that quarterback room develops and that left tackle comes through. But Ohio State still got
they had their third-string quarterback freshman in. Man, that's
It's not even comparable.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same.
No.
Their all-world receiver was gone. They didn't have any.
Dominic wants to know why we don't have Oregon versus Oregon State on the schedule. I don't know. Steve made that. Blame him. He was the graphic.
Yeah, they also don't play Texas Tech this year, Steve, but didn't want to tell you.
Well, I didn't make the graphic. I just stole the graphic.
Well,
it was actually from Oregon football Twitter. They done fucked up there, Aaron.
Jack Hughes
It's
said
weird because it's
no losses for Oregon.
It
Man, that's gonna be tough to say. I think there's one in there somewhere, but there's no more than that.
Got to recheck the graphics before I send them to you. Hey, you posted it. I just gave it to you.
Probably hit the over.
Wow.
And then Andrew's got Washington will lose 7.
Wait, who said they both hit the over?
That was Alex, man. Alex from Buckeye Bros, man. If you guys want more in depth on Buckeye football, go check out the Buckeye Bros show. Very good show, man. They hit everything Ohio State, not just football. Obviously, it's centric about football because it's Ohio State, but they talk basketball. They talk everything else as well. So hit those guys.
Give it to them.
Oregon is more set at QB than Ohio State is. He said we are, but I was just trying to clarify for people who didn't realize he was an Ohio State fan, even though I just said he was. But whatever. I digress.
Damn, spit it all out, man. Let's
And he
go.
said the Wolverines are going to be like a whole new team. They are going to be. I mean, the defense has got a lot of the foundation there, so I think the defense is
Yeah,
going to
they
look
do.
similar. But who knows what the coaching staff and offense is going to look like? 'Cause
Well, and they got a Baltimore Ravens defensive coach too, so the defense is going to be the exact same.
yeah, it is. All right, let's pay. No, wait, we got Nebraska, then we'll pay some bills. All right, Matt, you had Nebraska as another team to stay away from. They're at 7.5. Why are we?
Give me
staying
that
away?
schedule.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I know where this line's coming from. I know where Vegas gets it. If you look at well, first and foremost, they have a lot of returning starters back, so that's really where that number is getting carried from. You look at the soft part of their schedule, pretty, too easy non-conference: Illinois at Purdue, at Indiana, UCLA. So you kind of see 6 wins right there. So you're really getting close to that 7.5 with some 6 easy wins. However, you kind of look at the other side, you got Colorado, at Ohio State, at USC. To me, that could be a coin toss. Wisconsin, and at Iowa. So I see some potential there, but I'm going to go back to the philosophy of there's no way in the world, I don't care what your ranking is coming out of high school, that a freshman starting quarterback is going to come into the Big Ten and win you 8+ games. I just don't see it. I don't care how good you are. It is such a tough conference. I don't think you'd see it in the SEC either. The kid could be great. He could be phenomenal. He might not even be there next year for all I know. That kid flip-flops like crazy. I just cannot see a world where a freshman quarterback leads a Nebraska Big Ten schedule to win 8 games. So I'm not buying it. However, I would say their schedule is a lot softer than some of the ones we've talked about. So you kind of got these competing forces at play. As a result of that, stay the hell away from Nebraska.
Oh man, you got to make a pick though, brother. What is
Under.
guns? to your head? This is a betting show. You don't
I
get
don't
to
even
cop
have
out like that.
Under until Nebraska proves that they can play in the Big Ten consistently. Scared to death of a freshman quarterback. I mean, I would go under, but I stay with my original bet of stay away.
All right, Steve, what you got, man?
Man, political talk there. If I had to, I would, but I stay with my original bet. All right. Oh, man. It's tough. You're right. Those 6 games, they got 6 wins. Easy, right? But where are the losses? For sure, they're losing to USC. They're losing to Ohio State. Wisconsin, Iowa, I could see them possibly winning those games, but who knows? So I'll give them one. I would stay away from this bet too. I'm with you, but I'm going to go the over. I'm going to give them 8, just 8.
How about you, AJ?
I'm
Just
gonna
by
say,
hair.
of course, this isn't the stay away for a reason, so I'm going to stay away. I see 5 easy-ish wins here, but for them to get to 7.5, they have to win 3 of the following toss-ups or /upsets they would need to pull. Iowa on the road at Iowa at the end of the season. That's going to be a tough game.
No.
Wisconsin should be more talented this year. They might not have a better record, but they're going to be way more talented. Then you're at USC all the way out in LA. You got OSU. You got to go to Columbus. Colorado's not getting any easier. And then Rutgers, man, another team that could potentially hold its weight against Nebraska as well. They would need to sweep 3 of those: Colorado, Whiskey, Iowa, USC. They're not getting Iowa. They're not going to get OSU. They'd have to win 3 of those games, and that's tough sledding, man. It's tough sledding.
You're right. I keep rooting for Nebraska, and they're always disappointing.
I love Nebraska.
Damn.
I love their fans. I hope they can pull some weight. I think they're a year early still. I don't think they're quite ready yet. But man, that's a tough walk they got to do to get to 8 wins, and I don't see it happening. So I would take.
It's just tough because Matt Rule, his second year, they're always good under Matt Rule. Always good by the second year. But this is a different situation. This isn't the Big 12. You're right.
Man.
And it's not the original Big 10 either. I mean, if they didn't have all these extra teams lining up, I think that they would pull off 8 wins this year. If they weren't having these West Coast teams added in, they could get it.
Andrew says Nebraska back to the Big 12 immediately. They might want to escape this storm they found themselves in. Boy,
They'd be winning the Big 12 maybe.
he says over. He's taking the over, and then Clinton for president. This is a great comment. Clinton for president says, "I want Beeve to eat me."
I don't know who that is, but you got it, man.
I don't know if it's a man, but
Well, if it's a woman, then no. Overruled.
And then Troy says, "You guys still selling this big BS? We're selling this BS big time. What you talking about? You got to put those words backwards. We are for sure. That's what we do. We're the Big Ten Backers, man. Part of the
We're
College
selling the
Football
big.
Dogs Network, man. Media Network. We're here selling the Big
Come
Ten
on.
all day. It sells itself. But let's get another commercial in, and then we'll get this show. We got to get dialed in. We were already
What you
at an
talking
hour.
about, Willis? Selling the big.
Icy Breeze is the world's first portable air conditioner and cooler. A premium ice cooler that doubles as an eco-friendly portable air conditioner. This is not a swamp cooler, just blowing air across ice. Over 60 parts and components allow Icy Breeze to achieve what no other product in the world can do. The secret behind the Icy Breeze is an innovative design that circulates chilled ice water through a heat exchanger in the lid, replacing the Freon used in most ACs. Fresh air is drawn from hidden vents in the top of the cooler, pulled across the exchanger, and chilled down to 35 degrees cooler than the outside air. A 3-speed fan control delivers Icy Breeze's dry, cold air up to 25 miles per hour, just like a car AC. And a stay-put flex hose directs the breeze in any direction. Wherever you need it, Icy Breeze helps you beat the heat.
Oh,
swamp
Colin
cooler in a
says,
box,
can we
man.
get more? Can we get more comments from Clinton for president? Please, Clinton for president. I want more.
Anything.
I want more. I want a second term.
Hey,
Come
man,
on.
I thought we agreed not to play that commercial unless it's summertime. This is fucking February.
50 degrees
in the
Wisconsin.
Midwest.
This is summertime. What are you talking about, Cletus?
You need the Icy Breeze? Come on,
Big
Everybody's
man.
on
Ten's
a
down in
motorcycle,
LA, man.
50
Big
degrees,
Ten's down
man.
in LA. You got to hit all your fan base. Come on now.
Exactly.
Oh, all right,
It's
all right,
summertime,
all right.
man. 50
If
degrees,
someone
I'm
buys
not
that in
hitting
LA
it.
tonight and puts Big Ten Backers on that, then all right.
You should be.
We'll
Support
do it
the
again.
sponsors. Support your sponsors here.
Buy it,
Come on.
man. Buy that shit in
You'd
LA.
be
Come
buying
on.
it.
Awesome cooler.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's a summertime commercial.
Beef.
Did we
put
lose-
together
did we just
our
lose
best
AJ?
bet. Huh?
Ah, here we go. You froze up for a little bit on my screen.
My
You know
bad,
what?
my bad.
I want. You've heard a bunch about me. I want to hear from you all. Wait.
All right.
Where's
So
someone
this is
to look
me
at?
and Beeves' best bets, man. This is where we're going to try to trump Matt and say this is where he should have placed some of his better bets. So Steve's going to talk about an over that he should have took, and I'm going to talk about an under he should have took. But first of all, Iowa, man, they are set for their over and under at 7.5. Beef.
Flip
tell me
that
why-
schedule.
Tell me that.
Flip that
Tell me.
schedule.
Wait. Who's
Man,
picking
look at-
Iowa? And is it over under? I want to get my rebuttal already in place.
I am picking Iowa, and I am
For-
picking the over for sure, man. This is an easy bet. You gotta take this.
This should have been an easy over more than Maryland. So this is for the Maryland one.
Yeah, switch that with Maryland. I mean, they skip Oregon, no Michigan, no Penn State, no USC. I know they didn't make a splash hire with Tim Lester, but hell, Helen Keller could have called plays last year, man. Better than Brian Ferentz. Easy. Anyone could have. Pick up anyone off the street. They could have done it. So it's gonna be a better offense. The defense is always stacked. They got that defensive coordinator. Easy. Look at that schedule. I mean, Illinois State, Iowa State. Yeah, sometimes Iowa State pulls through, but they're not going to do it. Troy, Minnesota. They're going to lose at Ohio State. Washington, they can probably win. Michigan State, they will win. Northwestern, they will win. Maybe they'll lose to Wisconsin. UCLA, they'll win. Maryland, probably win. And Nebraska is probably a win too.
Yeah, this was Matt's big mistake. He chose Maryland as the better over here. I think he's absolutely crazy. Steve said it best. They avoid Michigan, Oregon, Penn State. Is there a better way to make easy baked
And
cookies?
USC.
Give me those easy baked cookies. They avoid those teams. They're going to be favored probably 10 or 11 games this year. They're definitely hitting the over all day. Mark it down. They have a way better chance to hit over than Maryland does. I can't believe they're this low at 7.5. I think you could.
And their one visit out west is to UCLA.
Yep, exactly.
So come on, man.
Come on. Over, Matt. This one should have been in your over column.
Tell me why I'm wrong. You can't.
First off, Iowa State returning productivity second most in the country. I think that's an up and coming team. Big fan of Matt Campbell. Got to love my Purple Raiders. So I see that being a much tougher game. Ohio State, I see being a challenge. Again, Washington, I just don't have that feel for. I think Wisconsin's an up-and-coming team as well. I look at their soft schedule. I see 4 games that are easy wins in the bag. But let's also be honest with there's no easy wins at Iowa. Every game is a field goal game. It's a field goal game.
Yeah, but they win them. They always win them.
All right, Iowa
The defense
Iowa
was
for
elite
some time.
last year. Even if they're a very good defense, you take a couple of those games, they're probably losses. You have to play at an elite level at that
But
defense.
their offense is going to be better. It can't get worse.
It can't get worse. I mean, you might as well go pick a high
You'd have to
school
punt the
team.
ball backwards every time for it to get worse.
I mean, I don't have any confidence in Iowa's offensive system. I do not believe you can continually play at such an elite defensive level year in and out. You can be very good, but they were
But they
elite
did.
last year. I don't see that. I look at this and I say, okay, I'm not touching a team that can't score the ball. This is college football. I need offense. I need scoring.
I didn't ask you to touch them. I asked you to bet on them.
They're still going to
I mean,
they're still going to be favored in almost every game. Maybe even one they won't be favored in against Ohio State. Now,
What do you
Iowa
think this is, a
will-
locker room in the Big Ten? You don't want to touch them.
It's pink. It's pink locker room.
I was going to say they have the pink locker room. Listen, if you're asking me right now, do I think Iowa goes 8-4? Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. But I'm not putting my money on a team I don't trust and a team that cannot score in Division I college football.
All right.
So I
This
say-
is an individual
point,
bet, man.
hold on, one more
I bet
point.
the over, you bet the under. We'll do the handshake on the screen.
One
How
more
much you want
point,
to put
though,
against
man.
it?
0.
They are
I'm not-
more trustworthy than Maryland. Are you crazy? They're way more trustworthy than Maryland. No, Iowa will Iowa, and they will go Hawk. Oh, fuck, what happened? Of course they do that. AKA Minnesota last year. But they're still a safer over than Maryland is, in my opinion. But we'll move on to the next
They'll beat
one.
almost all the teams they're supposed to beat. They might lose one of them that they're not supposed to win.
All right,
Or that
AJ,
that's
I got to
supposed to
hear about your side of the aisle here. Let's go.
All right,
Give it
my
to
side of
them.
the aisle, man.
Oh, of course. Of course, the
course.
Badger picks the Badgers.
On Wisconsin, baby. But anyways, I'm going to talk about how they're not going to be on Wisconsin. I think they're going to be a lot better this year, but man, that schedule is brutal. This should have been in your unders bet. Man, 6.5 I think is crazy for the Badgers. I see only 2 guaranteed wins. That's Western Michigan and South Dakota. You could maybe throw in a Northwestern in there, but if Northwestern said anything last year, it says we're not going to be a pushover to any mid team in the Big Ten. Like we can beat anybody who's in the mid-level of the Big Ten like Wisconsin is. Maybe Minnesota. They can play tough at times, especially when you're talking about a rivalry game against Wisconsin. I don't think that's a guarantee. And then they got Bama at USC, at Rutgers, Penn State, at Iowa, Oregon, at Nebraska. I
Hey, they're
their
lucky.
schedule-
They're
their
lucky.
schedule, ooh, boy.
Indiana's not on their schedule this year.
Nope. I mean,
They lost
if
to
you're a
Indiana last
Wisconsin
year.
fan like me, you don't want to bet on this, man. If you do, take the under. Just sit back, enjoy your cheese curds, your fish fry on Friday night, stock the fridge again, get yourself some brats on the grill. But this one should have been an under for you, Matt.
First off, that's why we love Wisconsin. Everything you just said there. That's why it's an amazing state. Highly recommend visiting. Second off, we all got to set the record straight. Let's start with Purdue and Minnesota. They are the 2 worst teams in Vegas at over-under at 4.5. So let's not be talking about the Golden Gophers and Purdue being any tough matchup. 2 easy wins right there. I see 2 easy wins at the top as well. I do think they beat Northwestern. I think Northwestern got a little bit of that first-year coach bomb, disrespect card, whatever you want to say. So I actually see 5 pretty straightforward wins on this schedule right away. And you're
I'll
right.
rebuttal that because we were at the Purdue game, and Purdue had a 14-point lead, and Wisconsin had to make a hell of a comeback in the fourth quarter to win that game.
Yeah, but they
Stadium.
lost. They lost their
Chris-
running back, and they lost. They already had their quarterback. He was actually Mordecai was in.
Well, he
wasn't
played that because we interviewed him after
Yeah.
the game, so he was.
Yeah,
He lost their running
But
back
they lost.
during the game.
yeah.
It was a tough year last year, and I'm throwing it away. I think there were a ton of injuries. Fickle's first
Yeah.
year, I'm going to put that aside. I think Luke Fickle has consistently shown improvement at the coaching ranks, so I see this team getting better on that front.
But this
Again,
schedule, bro.
I'm going to tell you right now. I think you see 5 wins here. I think they do beat Purdue, Minnesota, Northwestern, Western Michigan, and South Dakota. So I see.
But
those
they got to
5
get
wins right there.
7.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't. That's why I didn't go with it. You got Alabama, Penn State, Iowa, Oregon. I'll put those in your 4 loss columns. So right now I'm sitting at 5-4, and I'm saying to myself, okay, with the remaining games out there, can they win 2 of 3? And again, I don't buy USC the way you all do. I think USC could win because they got to travel out there and play, but I don't see that being that. In Nebraska, again, prove it to me. It's not 1998. It's Nebraska in 2024. Why are we talking about them like a power?
Well, Wisconsin's got to prove it too. So let's not act like they were on some pedestal and Nebraska.
Wisconsin's at least played in a Big Ten. Wisconsin's at least played.
Ron Dane's not coming back.
Yeah, come on now. Barry Alvarez ain't stalking them sidelines no more.
I think we can put Wisconsin's record the last 20 years versus Nebraska's. I think we'll see it drastically different.
Oh, you forgot the Bo Pelini years, man.
Someone's got a higher ceiling though.
Yeah, potentially. And again, you got a freshman quarterback. Who knows? And he may not stay. I think Wisconsin and Fickle, again, this screams 6-6, 7-5 record. This is why I didn't talk about it. I would stay away from. But to call this one as one of the easy unders, I'd be hesitant to do so.
I think it's easy under, but let's hit some comments and we'll get to the last bit of this show. But that's where me and Beeve thought you kind of slipped a little bit. That's where we thought could have been some bets we should have talked about in depth.
You're slipping, boy.
Yeah,
all right. Brandon says Hawks smash the over on the Hawks. He is new to the college football or college dogs media group. He's going to be running the Iowa podcast, the Iowa Backers, man. He's part of the family.
Nice.
And then anybody here, right, looking for some SEC writers. We need some SEC writers for the college football dogs. If you need to, go to their website, man, collegefootballdogs.com. Sign up. See if we can
hit them up.
The SEC. Hit them up. And he said Wazoo beats Wisconsin. They did last year. I was at a bar watching that game. It was disappointing.
Don't sleep on the Cougars, man.
He says you need to go watch Wisconsin play at
Maybe
Lambeau.
you should sleep on the Cougars.
You should always sleep on the Cougars. Wazoo,
I gotta slap you for that comment. Don't sleep on the Cougars.
He is right. Cougar goal, man. It is legit. It is good cheese.
Thanks, Troy, for reminding me Wisconsin can't beat Wazoo. I appreciate it. The game wasn't bad enough for me to watch last year. Thanks. I appreciate that. Good looking out.
Troy, Wazoo's a scrappy team. You got to get out to Pullman sometime. It's a hell of a venue. Highly recommend.
Sleeping on Cougars, and now you're talking about pulling men. I don't know what's going on.
This show took a turn, brother.
Nah, I'll save it. I'll bring it above board.
Appreciate it. We were sinking. We were going down fast.
Throw us that life preserver, man. Come on.
Yeah. Any other Big Ten teams you want to rapid fire with?
All right, so we're gonna go rapid fire. We're gonna go quickies. We're just gonna say
fire.
We're just gonna say whether we think they're over or under. So let's have a little fun with it, boys. Illinois 5.5. What you got, Matt?
5.5. Ooh.
I got them over.
All right, we got Indiana at 5.5. What you got, Steve?
Indiana at 5.5. Man, I got to go a little bit into the schedule. They got Washington. They got Ohio State. They got Michigan.
Rapid fire, man. It's rapid fire.
Under.
Man.
All right, back to you, Matt. Michigan State at 5.5.
Yeah, I see over.
All right, Steve, you're on the block.
Man, how come you're not making any of these picks? Come on, brother. Minnesota 4.5. Ooh, 4.5. I gotta go. Man, their schedule does not look good for 4.5. I go under. Ouch.
He's over here looking at the schedule.
That hurts.
Let's be scheduleless. All right, Northwestern 5.5. Steve wants me to go. I'm going to take the under. Ain't no way. All right, back to you, Matt. Purdue.
Purdue.
Under.
All right,
Under.
Steve.
At 4.5. I think they get obliterated this year.
The defending Pac-Dun champions. Let's say it, man. What do you got? Over under on 7.5.
Over under 7.5. Man, I think they got this all wrong. Washington's imploded. I got them under. I think that's an easy pick.
I would have them under too. Sorry, my husky little friends. They're not going to make it.
That
is the show, man. That is the
Ain't
show.
no Phoenix in Seattle anymore.
You got Will Rogers
right.
riding in on Buttercup to save the day. Come on.
There is Will Rogers. He did stay.
Hey, someone's got to stay.
Apparently, there are Cowboys out in Seattle.
And he wasn't even there last year, so he didn't technically stay.
Well, he committed and Went back into the portal and then committed again. That's what we mean.
Yeah, he came back to somewhere he's never been.
Yes. Well, he was there for like 3 weeks. What are you talking about? He almost did.
No, he did.
Man,
he did
never
enroll.
suited up for the Huskies.
He tried to
did
do the Bill
enroll in
O'Brien, man.
school.
He tried to do the Bill O'Brien. Leave him alone.
He went to the transfer portal, and then they had 0 quarterbacks in their quarterback room. And
It's
he
like,
decided,
whoa, I got to come back.
Yeah, I got to be the only guy in the room.
Hey, they got a good coaching hire. I'll give them that. We got some more comments we have to hit before we get out of here?
He said, "Is there an off button?" LOL. Apparently, he doesn't like to hear about Washington. They're under all day. I got you, Troy. They imploded. They're done.
Is there an off? There's an off button for Washington.
Yes, there is. Our Husky little friends ain't making it this year.
Ain't gonna happen. All right, Big Ten backers. Thank you all for coming. Hey, Matt, thanks for getting back in the show. Thanks for talking some betting with us. You're the man getting this all together. Our betting expert, man. This guy is in Vegas all of college football season. He takes no time off. His time off is the off season. That's it. So, hey, take your break. We'll be back for more Matt Does Vegas with Vegas Matt when we get closer to the season. All right, man. Enjoy your break, Matt. Thank you, Big Ten backers, for coming. Peace out. God bless y'all.
On the College Football Dogs website, you'll find a main page that features some of our biggest and newest stories. Our conference pages for content related to your favorite team's conference. Our team store, where we have products that are available all year long, as well as gear available for a limited time only. Our podcast page, where you can see when one of the 12 plus College Football Dogs podcasts is streaming live on social media. Our subscription page, where you can join our Discord. If you're interested in becoming a contributor at College Football Dogs, email us at info@collegefootballdogs.com. If you enjoy any College Football Dogs content, we really do appreciate any donation